morning. All right, let's go ahead and start our reading lesson today. It's a really short lesson, actually. We have a skill station day, lesson 109. So you don't need your book, but you do need your work text. We have a couple of work text pages to do, but we're going to get these finished pretty easy. This is pretty simple. So let's turn in our work text to page 260. Page 260 in your work text. Now today we're going to be talking about graphs, different kinds of graphs. Actually, we're going to learn about 3 different kinds of graphs today. And here's a couple, actually there's all 3 on here. So we're going to learn about, well, basically what a graph does, any kind of graph. It basically kind of puts a picture to information, and it provides a way for you to see something, to see some sort of information more clearly, like all at one time. It's easier than reading. Kind of like a timeline. Sometimes it's so hard to remember all the times of different things and whatever, but when you put them on a timeline, you can see it. So that's kind of what a graph is, but it does that with information rather than dates. Okay, so the first kind of graph we're going to look at is called a bar graph. And a bar graph, what that does is it compares similar information. So for instance, well, every graph, let me say this first, every graph has a title. Okay, so if you'll notice, this bar graph has a title, the money earned washing cars. Okay, and then over here on this side, it gives the dollar amount starting with 0, and it's in increments of 5 as it works its way up to 100. And then across the bottom is the date, and notice it tells you what they are. So this bar graph is comparing information of how much money was taken in each day for 4 days. So it's comparing similar information. So you could look at March the 4th and say each one of these is 5. So you could count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. So you could say March the 4th brought in $70 because this is the dollar amount. Okay, March 3rd brought in $35. So that means on the next day, on March the 4th, they made twice as much money because 35 and 35 is 70. So anyway, it just makes an easy way to compare similar information. And then this kind of graph is called a circle graph. Sometimes it's called a pie graph, and that's my favorite because I like pie, but we'll call it a circle graph. But a circle graph compares specific information to a whole. So the title of this one is Money Earned Washing Cars. Same thing as this one, but they showed it in a whole. So what they did was the whole circle represents 100%. This line down here splits it in 2. So this side's 50% or half. This side would be 50% or half. So Jennifer earned 2/8. Thomas earned 2/8 because 2/8 and 2/8 would equal half. And then Jeff earned 3/8 when this other guy, I don't even see his name here. This won't move out of the way. Anyway, I can't see his name down there. He earned 1/8. So when you add all of these up, if you were to add 2/8, Sarah, if you added 2/8, 2/8, 1/8, and 3/8 all up, you're going to get 8/8 because 8/8 equals 1 whole. So the information that's in a circle graph must equal 100% or 1 whole. Okay, and it's an easy way to look at a specific thing. So like for instance, on this circle graph, the specific thing that we're looking at is how much each person got. It's talking about washing cars, so it's talking about one thing. So they're taking washing cars as the whole thing, and within that, this person made this person this person this person. That's what a circle graph does. Okay, and then the third one is called a line graph. A line graph lets you see how things change. So again, the title is Money Earned Washing Cars. This is your dollar amount. It's very similar to a bar graph, but it uses lines rather than bars. Here's your dates down here. So this way you can see how on March the 3rd they were down here, and then they had a spike up on March the 4th, but then on March the 10th they had a way low spike, but then the next day they went way up. So that's what a line graph does. It helps you see how well something has done or how poorly something's done, what kind of changes took place. Okay, so that's all of the slides that we have today and all the explanations. So let's go ahead and look at our work text pages. On page 260, now we have 3 questions to answer on 260. So there's 3 different graphs, okay? The first graph at the top of your page is titled Presidential Elections. What kind of graph is that? A line graph, because it's using lines. Okay, the one at the bottom, the round one, it's called a circle graph. I'm not even going to ask you that. That shows the regions of presidents' births, where presidents were from. The one next to that is a bar graph, and its title is U.S. Presidents' Political Parties. Okay, so let's answer the questions, and I think I gave you all the answers already. Number 1, which graph shows U.S. presidents' birth regions? Is it the bar, the circle, or the line graph? It's the circle graph, so fill in the circle. The circle graph shows the regions of presidents' births. Number 2, which graph tells how many people voted in the 1996 presidential election? Did you say line? That'd be the line graph. That's the first one, the top one. That's a line graph, and it's showing the presidential elections. On the side, it shows the number of voters in millions, and along the bottom, it shows the years. All right, number 3, the hardest one. Which graph shows the political parties of the presidents? That would be the bar graph. Okay, good. Now we're going to use the information on the graphs. I apologize. I got a phone call and I don't remember where I was. All right, so I think we're starting page 261. And we're going to use the graphs to answer the questions, and it even tells us which graph we're going to be using for the questions. So the first 3 questions are for the bar graph. So that's going to be the one down in the left-hand corner, and it's titled U.S. Presidents' Political Parties. So the first question is, how many Democratic presidents were there? So look on here and see if you can find the number of Democratic presidents. So you'll have to count up the side. You see Democratic at the bottom. Go up, the number of presidents. Do you see how many? Do you get 14? It's just below the 15 line. So each one of those little lines. It looks similar to this. It's a bar graph. And on the bar graph on our page, each one of these represents 1. Now on this one, each one represents 5. So it would be 14 on number 1. Make sure you write that in the blank. Number 2, how many Republican presidents were there? Can you count those? Did you get 17? Okay, it's 17. Number 3, how many more Republican presidents were there than Democratic presidents? And just look at that and count. You just subtract. There was 17 Republicans, 14 Democrat, so there were 3 more Republican presidents. So that's the answer to number 3 is 3. All right, 4, 5, and 6, we're going to use the circle graph. What fraction of the U.S. presidents was born in the Middle West? What's the fraction? Did you get 3/12? It's 3/12. Number 5, in which regions of the United States were the same fractions of presidents born? That would be, did you get northeast and southeast? And you can just put the abbreviations NE for northeast and SE for southeast. They were both 4/12. Okay, number 6. In which region was the smallest fractions of presidents born? It just says other, doesn't it? So you'll just write the word other on number 6. That's just 1/12. Okay. Now we'll use the line graph. That's the one on the top. Okay, in which year did the most people vote? It was a great year for me. You weren't born yet. 1992. You see how the line goes way up? And you go down to see the year, and it was 1992. 1992 was the year that I graduated high school and I got married. 1992. All right, number 8. Did more people vote in 1984 or 1988? We need to look at the graph and see. What does it look like to you? 1984. More people voted in 1984 than 1988. And number 9, how many people voted in 1976? Now remember, the numbers up the sides are millions. Okay, so how many people voted in 1976? Did you get 81 million? Because each one of those lines is represented by 1, but the numbers are in millions. So it'd be 1 million. So 81 million, because it starts at 80. So it'd be 81 million on number 9. Okay, that completes our lesson for the day. It was just a skill station day working on graphs. So that is all for today.